You know, at some point, Codex is just going to have to take over my channel with how many replays of his that I cast. But here we are, Codex, once again on the Lizardmen, bringing Tehenowini up against Daedalus on the Empire, who has brought himself, or themselves, Boris Todbringer. For Tehenowini, he is he is on his arguably worst mount. I think it's the worst one, but I bring it for fun. It's got 90, it's pretty fast, and he's got decent stats on it, so why the heck not? But Codex, I think you're just copying me here, bringing his worst mount. Who else would bring this mount except for me? Come on. Get some originality, please. Thank you. He's got Flock of Doom is all he's bringing. And for the rest of the army, let's be honest here. Flock of Doom and Dehenneman are the only important parts of it. But we'll go over the rest of it nonetheless. Red Crescent Skinks will be the front line. Going to be trying to rush down the Empire and carve through those state troopers to get to the back line. For the rest, it'll be double Code 1 Spear Riders on one flank and a single on the other. We've got for skirmishing, quadruple skink skirmishers, and double Kawato for those bound spells. And of course, just their ability to disrupt enemy backlines is very frustrating for factions like the Empire, especially when it has such high missile resistance. But let's go over the Empire side. Speaking of them, we have Boris on his not budget Deathclaw, on his Griffin, with just Deadly Onslaught, his items, Middle and Nurnfang, of course, for his regen, and White Cloak of Ulrich, and then coupled with that Crush the Weak abilities. Go, hopefully getting some leadership bombs on the skinks of the Lizardmen side, as they don't have the greatest leadership, though they do have ITP thanks to Frenzy. So once it goes down, you'll be seeing those terror routes very quickly. For the Wizard, we have Jade Wizard, a Jade Wizard with Earthblood and Dwellers Below, and Power Stone. Very interesting to see a Jade Wizard when you have a Lord that's already pretty good at healing himself, considering he has his regen item. Typically, you would see a Jade Wizard with, like, say, Carl Franz, which is obviously really good in his matchup. But I think they're mostly bringing it just to heal up those Demigryphs, which we have two of them with Halberds. Very expensive. You want to keep those guys topped up. Make sure they're not taking an astronomical amount of damage from, like, those skink skirmishers, who they don't have a lot of AP, but it'll add up very quickly. Volume of fire, as you know. For the rest of the army, double Outriders. I would bring grenade launchers instead, but we'll see how the regular Outriders do. Great Cannon as well, just a single one, just to shoot at any cav, any large single entities, etc. Front line's just going to be a staunch line of spears and some halberds. Speaking of said cannon, it is shooting right now at the moment at the Code 1 Spear Riders. Hopefully knock off a few models, change things around for the late game. That'd be very nice. An overcasted Flock of Doom going down on the halberds, hitting both of them. Almost hit the Demigryphs, or maybe, I don't know. It looks like they got damaged a little bit. I don't know by what then, if it wasn't the Flock of Doom. The Quaddle is having a fight here with Mr. Boris himself, and it's not looking too great for that Quaddle there. In fact, he's taking an absolute beating there from Boris Todbringer. Boris is no chump in melee. He's not a Karl Franz, but he's got some fists on him. He's gonna beat the brakes off that Quaddle. The Quaddle's not that great at fighting single entities. On the right hand flank, the Demigryph Knights are going to get a brutal charge there on the Skink Skirmishers, doing an astronomical amount of damage and just routing them practically immediately. We also throw an overcasted Earthblood on top of them to mitigate some of the damage from those Spear Riders who do get that charge back on the Demigryphs. These Code 1 Spear Riders are probably going to get a flank here charge on the Demigryphs, but one of them turns around to counter charge and get that leadership up plus the glorious charge. Oh, actually, do they not have them? Did they get removed? I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. They get that leadership bonus from that charge there, and oh my god, look at the fight here. The fight here is trading almost really badly for those Demigryphs. The Demigryphs are taking such insane damage. They are desperately in need of another Earthblood. I don't know what the cooldown is left. The duration is left on the cooldown for that Earthblood, but one is desperately needed to keep them topped up because those Code 1 Spear Riders and Red Crystal Skinks are just making insane value off it. A Bound Spell, Chain Lightning, going to be hitting those halberds, and other halberdiers can do some really nice damage as they were stacked up on top of each other. The Great Cannon has been shut down by the Quaddle, and that's exactly what they're good at doing. Just getting to that backline and disrupting. Spearmen are doing absolutely nothing and just watching that happen. What is going on there, Spearmen? Those poor Great Cannon crew are just watching in horror as they're slaughtered and the Spearmen are doing nothing to help them. Outriders are actually wasting their ability here as well, shooting at Skink Skirmishers. Definitely need to go over here, maybe shoot at like Red Crested Skinks instead, or go back here and shoot the Quaddle. Heck, maybe you can go here and support the Cav engagements and shoot at the Spearwheel Riders instead, because they're kind of just wasting their bullets, their ammo on Skink Skirmishers at the moment. Tahanawini at the moment is just burying himself in Halberdiers, taking a bit of damage here and there, but mostly just aiding out on the fight. Outriders do come around to start shooting at the Quaddle, and they do have missile resistance, but it will add up eventually. I'm kind of disappointed that Boris Todbringer himself didn't shut down that Quaddle completely. I'm not sure what happened with the rest of that engagement there, but he should have stayed on top of it with how much damage he initially dealt with it. And if the Quaddle tried to get away, the Demigryph Knights could have supported him, or the Outriders. Definitely would have been smart to finish off that Quaddle there, because now look how much disruption he's causing. The Demigryph Knights are having to chase him when they could be sent elsewhere to help, like in the back line with the other Quaddle, or to help finish off these Spear Riders. But yeah, maybe as well, Demigryphs took way too much damage early on because they were just being shot by Demigryphs, or by the Skink Skirmishers, excuse me, and they definitely should not have been anywhere near those Skink Skirmishers without the support of infantry or Boris himself. The Quaddle gets a rear charge on those Spearmen and routs them completely. Halberd's about to take a bound spell, possibly a Raiden's Thunderbolt. It's going to come down here and do some pretty good damage there. Almost finish them off. Might end up terror routing those guys. Yep, they get terror routed thanks to that Quaddle and that shock damage from the Chain Lightning, or the Thunderbolt. Spear Riders get a charge in on the Demigryphs, who don't get a charge back, I believe, and are took a lot of damage from it, but the Demigryph Knights are doing some pretty good damage in return. But once again, the Red Crested Skinks are supporting them, just like in the previous engagement, and those Demigryph Knights are going to lose out on that, unfortunately. So, the only thing left that the Empire has to deal with the massive amount of Cav, or rather the Cav still left for the Lizardmen, and the Quaddles is Boris, and I don't think Boris is it. I do not think Boris has it in him like he would, like Karl Franz would. He's going to start chasing after Tohanawin, but I do not think that's the call. Just finish off that Quaddle there. Here is probably the best thing you can do at the moment. Get those Outriders to support you as well, maybe, or send yourself over to screen out the Spear Riders, because those Spear Riders get on top of the Outriders, it is over. My issue is with that is that some would argue that the Outriders could carry as well, but no, they cannot. They take way too long to do too little damage for the entire. It would take the entire game for them to spend all their volleys to get as much damage as like grenade launchers would in a couple of volleys. Like, it is actually insane how long it takes these guys to do anything. It did feel so incredibly inaccurate at like past like half their range, which is 115. So Boris continues chasing the Spear Riders away, and that's exactly what he wants to do. Spearmen are off and about chasing Skinks, which this one is fine. It's keeping away the Skink Skirmishers from shooting the rest of the army, which is good. This one needs to come back over. Great Cannon is going to get back on top of the cannon, hopefully. I don't think I saw Dwellers below, but the Earthbloods were doing good. But unfortunately, we're not going to get any more of them, as the Jade Wizard has been chased off by the Quaddle. I mean, one could argue that it's a good thing the Quaddle's being used to chase down a caster and leaving the rest of the army alone, but you really need that caster. You need those Earthbloods, and you need a good Dwellers Below could change the game, possibly, for the Empire. But I do think with the Jade Wizard gone, the Outriders... Wow, those Demigryph Knights are sticking around with 3 freaking models. They're going to continue after as well, and to chase after the Quaddle Spear Riders with Boris. Oh my god, they are fighting for the Empire, for all doing all that they can for them, even taking side shots from those Skink Skirmishers. Sigmar has blessed them today. I'm not sure with what, but they are rampaging through the Lizardmen backline despite being so badly bruised. Despite missing over 90% of their freaking crew. It's just the 3 of them. If they live through the rest of that battle here, Boris is going to make sure that they live in the richest part of the Empire and live well off for the rest of their lives. My god. The Outriders shooting away at the Quaddle, and look, just barely doing any chip damage, but they also finally rout off as well. Dehenowin finishing off those halberds. Outriders are not going to come back. If they do, they don't have much. This one has 44 models, which is good. One quad with full HP, and I think that is probably going to be it. Boris going to go for a little bit of a fight here with the Quaddle and Tanwin. And this is probably what Tanwin should have done earlier on whenever Boris is beating a dunking down on the Quaddle, was just support it. Because once they started supporting it, the fight started turning around a little bit. And Boris started taking pretty good amounts of damage. But, you know, too late. Here we are now. Now they finally know that Boris can't take both of them. And look how badly... Like, if Tohenan wasn't there, Quaddle would have been killed there. And that would have been very detrimental for the Lizardmen side. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. Because look at the numbers here. Boris, sorry. Just like with the village, you're not it. You ain't gonna finish... you ain't gonna be gonna kill that one of those Quaddles. And it's gonna go to the Lizardmen side. Well played here by both players. Codex did a good job shutting down those important pieces of the Empire, specifically the Great Cannon, and getting a really good engagement there with the Cav. If those Demograph Knights were allowed to just run over your Skink Skirmishers and dictate the engagements with your Cav, it could have gone very, very bad for the rest of the game. But getting those appropriate engagements and shutting down that Cav early on, despite the healing, was such a big win for the Lizardmen side. I mean, those Demogryphs, there's a lot of investment there, not only with the healing, but also just the cost in gold, having to bring those guys. And Codex may or may not have known that the Outriders, they don't pay off their value soon enough in the game for them to matter, to put in the resources to destroy them. Instead, they went after the two most important pieces, the Cav and the Great Cannon. If the Great Cannon was allowed to shoot the entire game, that could have been astronomical. That could have been very detrimental for the Lizardmen Cav. Just sniping out models. Let's go over the values here. 2622 here on Tanawini. We already know. Flocks of Doom, incredible. And just helped out their Red Crested Skinks in a fight with that bonus for his infantry. Did some pretty good work. Red Crested Skinks, you know, they chop through state troopers. Nothing really important there. That's all they're good for, is chopping through fodder. Yeah, you heard me. Red Crested Skinks, hey, always going to bring it in all of my Lizardmen videos. No, they're fine here. 1060 here on the Quaddle and 1453. And we have another high value here at 1623 on these Cold One Spear Riders. These are probably the ones who got that side charge on the Demigryphs. Either way, they did really, really good work there and got some insane value off the Demigryphs, trading up in value. For the Quaddles, 1453 and 1060 also got insane value there with their bound spells. Did really good work on like that bunched up bit of halberds and shutting down the Great Cannons and eating at just, I don't know what the other Quaddle did. I think the other Quaddle was just like supporting the infantry engagements or cav engagements. Either way, it did good work. They both did really, really good work. For the Empire side, Boris, he did pretty good. 1771. I mean, despite... I really wish he had finished off that Quaddle, but despite that, he still got some good value off of beating it up. He might have been worth chasing after the other one just to screen it out from the Great Cannon and just to beat it up as well, because they were both so separated that it might have been possible to, considering there was no healing for the Lizardmen side, it might have been possible to beat them both up enough to impact how much performance they would impact their performance in the late game. But he did alright. Terrorated some things with his ugly mug and his Deathclaw, his bootleg Deathclaw. 1200 and 960 on these Demigryphs, despite how much they downtraded in value against the Cold One Spear Riders. They still got pretty good value because of how good they are at fighting large targets. They are an elite cav for a reason. Now, I don't know what happened to their Glorious Charge. I didn't see it on their stat sheet. Maybe they got removed. Or maybe it's not on the halberds. I think it's maybe, I think it's on the regular Demigryphs. So, if it is, I'll just put it on here. but I'm sure the rest of you know and you'll correct me easily. Either way, they still did fine, but definitely that engagement went very bad for the Empire there. And Outriders, as you can see, they pretty much shot like that entire game. Sure, so that early on was shooting at quote unquote worthless units, aka the King skirmishers, but for the rest of the game, it was been shooting at other viable targets, and it just did not. They barely even paid for themselves, honestly. And I think one of them may or may not have paid for themselves. Either way, yeah, I don't really like them. I would prefer like grenade launchers here. But on the off chance that, say, they bring a big dino like Tehnoin on the Engine of the Gods, I could see use for them. They just are fairly inaccurate for me, and they miss a majority of their time. And when they do hit, they don't do enough damage. But for the Great Cannon, not so great value either. 504. But what can you expect when you're up against a rush build from the Lizardmen? But yeah, I will catch you guys next time with another one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.